Max Sterling. Welcome to LARPgasm. So, the new cyberpunk game rolled into town. You got your costume looking good. The problem is, you're going to run across traps in this game. And we're not talking about mouse traps in boxes. We're talking about high-tech, futuristic shit. Motion sensor lights, laser tripwires, motion detectors, magnetic alarms, and all various of cruel and unusual traps the GMs and storytellers are going to throw at you. The problem is, you're not Tom Cruise and this isn't Mission Impossible, so how the fuck are you going to defeat this stuff? Well, guess what? Stay tuned. I'm going to show you how. So, your storyteller tells you that you found this cigar box that looks suspicious in a drawer while you were rooting through a CEO's house. So, you decide to take it with you. The problem is, you suspect that it might be trapped. Who knows, maybe it's a bomb, maybe it's nothing. But there's something in here other than cigars. So, we're going to go ahead and be very careful and take a look at how to get in here and get the stuff out of this box. So we know that there's something in this box. And being as this is a futuristic cyberpunk game, we know it's going to be some sort of futuristic trap. So we're going to need to start out by opening the box very, very carefully and very, very slowly. Most of the modern day traps, whether they're motion sensor lights or anything that involves motion, if you move incredibly slow, you can usually bypass them. So we're going to start out by moving very slowly until we can open it far enough to see inside. Now once we see inside and determine what type of trap it is, then we will proceed further. So we're going to go ahead and proceed very slowly. And you can see that clearly there is a trap in there. But we need to get this box open. Now that is actually a motion sensor trap. Yes, it's a child's toy, but it's very nerve-wracking when you're trying to do this. Because even though it's a kid's toy, it still most certainly works and serves a function. Okay, now if your GM or storyteller will allow you to deactivate this, you can reach in and there's a button on the back. And if you push down on the top of it and push the button, you should be able to shut it off as long as you come in from behind the trap, because there's no sensing arc behind it. However, if you're not able to, you don't have the skill, or if it's butted up against something, you're going to just have to go for the prize. Now there's a large sum of money in here. I see a stack of 500 euro. So I want that, but I don't want this trap to go off and blow up or do whatever it's going to do. So I'm going to move very slowly to get this out of here. And yes, there's a hole in my glove. And that is so I'm able to get at least a little bit of friction on things, because stupid gloves like these are very slippery. Mm-hmm. and just to show you that there's no bullshit involved. So if at any point in time I would have gotten hasty with this, that would have gone off. So, defeating motion sensors. So, most of these are going to have some sort of forward-facing arc on them, especially if they're these type of toys. I don't know if it's something homemade or if it's something professional, it might look different, but keep an eye on which way it's facing. And like I said, very slow movement. Everything is very slow. Be very careful and very slow in everything that you do, and you'll make it. We've been hired to steal this prototype board from a large corporation. It might be for weapons, it might be for computers, who knows, but we need to get it. The only problem is we break into the place, we get there, and it's protected by a laser grid. Well, you're going to say, well, no problem, Max. You just need a mirror, right? And you just slide it in front of there, and that bounces it back and lets you bypass it, right? Well, here's a mirror. Yeah, not quite so much, because what's happening is that the light or laser is being pushed into this receptor, and the moment that contact or connection is broken, then it's signaling the alarm. So even if you bounce it back at itself, or if you have two mirrors or whatever, it's just not going to work, because this isn't emitting any light of its own. If it was emitting a light to a mirror and bouncing it back, then yes, you could do that. But why would anyone do that? Because all you would need would be a mirror to bounce it back. So if you're making a large grid network, I mean, maybe you do something like that, but if you're just having a straight line, you're not going to see that, especially if you're using a setup like this. Now, if you're doing something homemade, who knows how it's set up. If you see mirrors, then yes, using a mirror would work. Do not use a framed mirror. You're going to need just a shard or a piece of a mirror, though, to do that. But there is a way around these direct lines like this, and that's to fight fire with fire. Get the brightest light you can find. White is probably your best bet, but other colors may work. And what you're going to do is just bring that light in very slowly, just like you did with your motion sensor. And you're going to line it up directly with that contact. And then all you have to do grab your board and then very slowly move it back out of place. There's your product. Go sell it to whoever hired you. Laser grid still in effect. Now the cool thing about these type of toys is there's actually two sides to it. So there's this side, and then there's also the side over here. And you can have these set on angles, up, down, left, right, all over the place, and you can mount these wherever you want them to be. So it doesn't have to be as straightforward as, you know, I made it. And these actually get a pretty good distance as well. So something like this is pretty awesome if you can come across it. If you see it as a player, then just know you're going to need a flashlight to get by it, unless, you know, you have skills and stuff and you're able to turn it off. But that's kind of cheesy. Bypassing it is a lot more fun. Just remember, move slowly. Make sure you have a bright light and one that doesn't like cut in and out, because it has to be a constant source. And I wouldn't play around. Once you have your hand in there, hold that thing steady, brace it, get whatever the hell you need to get, and get out of there. Whenever you pull this away, don't just jerk it away. Move it out nice and slow so that these two can connect with each other again, and you're all done. Get the hell out of Dodge. So, That's how to defeat a laser tripwire system, at least of this nature. So now we're dealing with motion sensor security lighting. So this is a security light, and the same rules apply to any other motion sensor device. You need to move slowly, very slowly. Some devices are more forgiving than others, but you're not going to know that. So you just need to move as slowly as you can. So there's a circuit board laying there in the clear view of the light, and I'm going to try to get it by moving very, very slowly. Okay, and there's the board. Just move very slowly when you go to get it, and there won't be a problem. Now, as you can see, you know, the light's there, and it works. So I'll let it go out here. Now, if I come in too aggressively and too quickly to get this thing, look at that. That's all the difference it takes. Moving slowly versus moving fast. I mean, that's it. So, move very slowly. Now, some of these motion sensors, there's also another way you can defeat them. And it depends on how they're set up. But if you have a very bright light, just like before with some of the other ones, if you shine it on it, because some of these are night based only, so if they have an eye on them and they think that it's daytime, then they won't activate. So you can just reach in, grab it, and then peace out. And that's all there is to it. The problem is you're not going to know if it has an eye on it unless you've seen it, and unless it's fairly visible. So keep that in mind. And that's two ways to defeat security lighting. Okay, so one type of trap that you're going to see pretty commonly at games, and this may even show up in your medieval games, even though it's not period or genre at all, is these cheap dollar store window alarms or door alarms. Basically, it's magnetic in nature. You get a little bit of play with them before they go off. But you can affix one side to the top of a box, the other side to the bottom of a box. You can do doors, cabinets, whatever you want to with them. But basically, the way to defeat something like this is to just replace the other magnet. So whether you're using, you know, a little kid's, you know, fishing game with a magnet on the end, or whether you're using, you know, grandma's little chicken magnet that you stole off the fridge, or if you happen to bring along a big boy, you know, 100-pound pull magnet, then whatever you want to use, you're just going to bring it in, and replace that magnet. And once you've replaced it, then you can just, you know, stick this together or hold on to it or whatever you need to do to get everyone through the door. And then when you're done, you know, you just pull it back off. Or you can just slide whatever was there back into place. To take back over. So all you need to defeat these is just another magnet. Now, you know, grandma's chicken magnet, you know, little kids game magnets may not be strong enough, so you may want to have something a little bit beefier. 100 pounds, probably a little bit overkill on something like this, but you should definitely have a decent strength magnet. And I would suggest getting something thin and possibly flexible, because if this is inside a box or in someplace weird to reach, you may need to fish it in between. You may not have the ability to, you know, adjust the distance. You may have to really sort of squeeze something thin in there. So I would have probably a couple different magnets in your kit if you're playing a game where you know you're going to run into stuff like this. Stuff like this, these are just more motion lights. We're not going to bother taking a look at those. All you got to do is just make sure you move real slow, you know, as mentioned before. And that brings us to the last type of trap. And this is a door trap. So what happens is when the door opens up, it depresses this and the alarm goes off for as long as it's pressed in. So the only way you're going to get around something like this is if you basically know it's there. So whenever you open doors, open them slowly. If you feel any sort of resistance, stop opening the door. The best thing you can do is to carry a small shim or something thin that you can get under a door to bump into this and push it out of the way. Don't be afraid to lie on the ground, look under the door, and see if there's something there. Because something like this, as soon as you open that door and this depresses, this alarm's going to go off. This is also something you can pick up at like a dollar store. So be prepared to see these often. And like I said, even if you open the door real slow, this isn't going to move. All that's going to happen is that door is going to come up this ramp and set the alarm off. You would actually have to look under the door first, unless the GM's nice enough and they set it a little ways back so the door can open up a crack. If it can open up a crack and you can look in with a mirror or something and see this, then you should be good. But if they put it right up against the door, the way it's meant to be used, the only way you would know it there is to look underneath. This is something where you might have to encounter it once and fail to know that it exists. But once you know it exists, then every time you open a door in the future, you're going to want to check for these. And hopefully there's a gap under the door. What you could do is you can make a special tool, like a long piece of metal or plastic that you just proactively slide under every door and just sort of give a couple whips back and forth. So if there is something like this, you know, it knocks it out of the way. And then go ahead and open the door if you want to be, you know, a little bit crazy about it. But if you know these exist in your game, keep an eye out for them. And like I said, it's a very simple design, but when that door opens and it knocks that down, this alarm goes off, you know, you're shit out of luck. So, like I said, there's not really any reason to show you how that works. Basically, you're just going to stick something underneath the door and bop this out of the way. So, that's a bunch of modern day type traps. Now, if someone decides to build the traps themselves, you know, they are going to vary in nature. They may vary in the way that they're set up. However, a lot of the techniques that I showed you in this video should still work. You may be able to use additional techniques. You may need to modify some of the techniques I talked about. But anything involving motion sensors, the key is to move slowly. Anything that is light sensitive, you can usually overcome with bright lights, as long as they're introduced slowly into the system. If something is involving bouncing light off of mirrors, yes, you can probably use a mirror to bypass it, but you had better be spot on when you move stuff into place. It might be easier to go about it a different way, so keep that in mind. Any of these sort of alarms, you know, really the most important thing you can do is just move slowly, move carefully, and determine if they're there before you take action, because these are meant to be something that you don't even know they're there until you trip them. So, hope that this video helped you out. And if you are playing cyberpunk or any sort of post-apocalyptic or dystopian future or any sort of game set in modern times, keep this stuff in mind. If you're not a player and you are a storyteller or a GM, hey, all this stuff that I showed in this video, kids' toys basically. Check out thrift stores, check out toy sections, look online. You can find all this stuff in those type of stores and buy it for your games to just make the players' lives hectic. So, until next time, adventure on. Now this is going to serve as the light. But enough to get this magnet in here.